All right, it is 5:30. I'll call the capital improvement plan meeting to order. If we could just go around and
That need to be fixed or not.
do introductions for the recording secretary.
Megan Sabasco, School Board Rep.
Gene Reed, public member.
Ellen White, Town Administrator.
Tim DeBrio, Board of Selectmen.
Charlotte Fife, member.
Maureen Campiola, community member.
Thank you. For those that were in attendance at the last meeting, I'm sorry. Have you had a chance to review the minutes? And if so, any discussion or a motion?
Meeting called to order at 6:30. Should have been 5:30.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jean. Any other comments?
I move to approve the minutes with the 5:30 PM start time edit.
Second that motion?
All right, motion by Tim DeBrio, seconded by Charlotte Fife. Roll call vote.
Aye.
Yeah, aye. I don't know. Are we saying our name and, yeah, I was going to say Megan Sabasco, aye.
Gene Reed, yes. Aye.
Ellen White abstain.
Tim DeBrio, aye.
Charlotte Fife, aye.
Maureen Campiola, aye.
All right, the motion passes. Okay, so next on the agenda is the town and school CIP plan review. I would like to just start by saying that I did reach out to the department heads for the town, and there are no additional projects being added in for 2024 that hadn't previously been earmarked. So I did provide an email that I received in response from Courtney and Courtney for the Recreation Department and Fawn for the Police Department.
So can I ask, so the 2023, did all these projects happen? That are in the
On the handout,
year? Because we would be pushing right into the next year. So if anything needs to roll forward that did not happen this year, and then if there's additional ones for the 6th year out.
No, the audio video meeting room. That has not happened. And I
let's
don't think
see.
it's going to move forward.
So if we just go through the list, the cruiser for $45,000, that was on there. The tech capital reserve fund for the police department for $10,000, that did go in.
So, can you hit the 45 again? What happened with that?
We purchased a new cruiser.
Okay. And that was a source of funding?
The budget.
Operating.
Operating budget.
Yeah, it's usually in the operating budget, yeah.
Correct. The Equipment Technology Capital Reserve Fund was established in 2023. $10,000 was added into that. I do believe that the bay door upgrades and repairs at the fire station took place. I don't think that was,
I was told it was, yeah.
Yeah, is that the sensors?
No.
No, oh,
No, the bay doors need to be repaired.
no.
So there's not a,
so that one is all set.
oh, it is all set.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
100,000 was added into the Fire and Rescue Capital Reserve Fund. For Public Works, the utility truck, that was purchased this year. It wasn't for the whole 104,000. I think it was 75,000 to purchase the truck, and then it was outfitted. So those came from the additional highway block grant funds that were received in 2022 to be used for highway projects. The backhoe was purchased and delivered mid-year. let's see, Public Works, $70,000 warrant article, so that did pass town meeting, and that is in process with CMA engineers right now. As well as I think that $70,000 is the two culverts at $35,000 each.
Is that non-lapsing? So in other
It
words,
is.
that will be, if it's done next year, it'll be covered?
Correct. The 600,000 road maintenance and reconstruction, that was raised, and a great portion of that has already been expended.
What happens to the remainder?
The Board of Selectmen can choose to encumber the funds before year end, or it will lapse.
Slaps.
But that is set to be a set amount across the years, the 600,000 and an appropriate
was-
amount.
Was it 400 that was on the warrant article and 200 in the budget?
Mm-hmm.
Normally it's 3 and 3.
That's why it says warrant slash
Slash
operating.
operating budget. I'm just wondering if that number, that 600,000 was appropriate
It's a
for
standard.
what, it's gonna stay that way?
Stay the same.
Or Maybe.
Where it's gonna come from.
Okay,
Where it's gonna come from is gonna be creative, but the 600,000, it's based on a road management plan that was in place. We are several years behind, so it's going to be at the discretion of what the new highway director feels he can accomplish, and whether or not he can do it within that.
But one thing we had talked about at the last select board meeting is that we can account for the monies differently, meaning that if it's spent from the operating budget, it's out of the operating budget, but if we leave the $120,000 that's left right now, for example, I think it's about that. If we left it from the warrant article, we can expend that next year. It doesn't have to be spent this year, but if it's whatever's in the operating budget, obviously it has to
has to
be
be
spent.
spent
this year.
in the
Okay.
fiscal, okay.
So we did sign a contract with R&D paving based on the mileage that we were estimating to be done this year, so technically we do have a contract in place and we could encumber.
Okay. I was just more wondering if that's a reasonable amount to continue in the CIP, or if that's dollar amount wise, an appropriate amount.
I think it's
going
really gonna depend on the cost.
Okay.
It
Based on,
probably should be higher.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
that's more as what I'm getting at. How much are we getting for 600,000?
Because we're, I think, what, 2 years behind?
Yeah, and looking at the plan, if the 600,000 is meeting, even if are we getting farther and further behind because we're doing less and less with the funds? Okay.
So the warrant article that was voted on and passed was for an amount of,
it was 400,000 in a warrant article and 200,000 in the operating budget.
and where does that stand? Approximately.
I wanna say there is about 60,000 remaining.
Really? And can that be spent next year then?
Yes,
Because the warrant article, I think they call them non-lapsing,
correct.
and the operating budget then would have to be encumbered if it came out of the operating budget.
Well, I mean, I think the total that has been expended so far is like $434,000 off the top of my head, so it depends on where bookkeeping has placed those funds right now. I mean, that was what Tim was trying to get at with the discussion. If we fully expend the 200,000 that was raised in the operating budget and then the residual into the warrant article, then there'll still be, those monies carried forward.
But we don't know
We don't
as we
know.
sit here.
Right,
But you can cover it one way or another.
correct.
So the selectmen will have to take action if it's out of the budget to encumber it,
Correct.
if it's committed.
Correct.
So we need to get a commitment within 2 weeks,
Yeah.
otherwise you can't encumber it.
It's on
We
the
have
list.
like, we have like 12 meetings in the next
Yeah, I
2
was
weeks, so plenty of time.
I just want to make sure that you got it covered and it doesn't disappear if you need
No, we
it for
talked
the
about, we
roads.
did talk about it in the last meeting, is to make sure that the
No
money
pressure.
doesn't get, we do want it to remain in the warrant
Yeah,
article.
60,000, but it doesn't
Yeah,
sound
that's-
like much, but it's
No, it is
real money.
that, yeah.
Well, especially where we're saying we need to spend more. in
Yeah,
coming years.
Yeah.
if it really needs to be a higher number, you don't want to
And we've
not be
already,
spending.
give
we've
it
already
away.
paid for it, so to speak.
Yeah.
The legislative body has acted on it. So,
And then this capital reserve fund, the next, is it a public works capital reserve fund? Is it specific? I think they each have
I think that's the highway department equipment capital
Yeah.
reserve.
Equipment? Okay.
Once again, that's a warrant article, but it goes in the reserve fund, so it's there.
Correct.
Right, I was just wondering what it was specific.
How much is in there?
I don't have that information, but I can get it for you.
Now, with the Public Works and with the fire department previously, it mapped out the equipment and say, this piece is probably gonna be due there, here, this piece here, and this piece here. Is there any such document right now?
There is.
Yeah, that is something we have seen before, just at the committee.
We got it this year?
I don't know.
Not- I mean, in previous years, we
Yeah,
have
yeah.
seen it in the CIP.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to.
But I don't know if it's still accurate or whether it can be modified to bring us up to date.
I don't think it is accurate to include the new truck that was we just received this year, but that was ordered 2 years ago. It does not reflect the utility truck, so we will have to do some fine tuning.
Who's gonna do that?
I will probably be the pick-me.
Did the ambulance arrive?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes, it just arrived yesterday.
it's taken, oh, I'm gonna go over and give it a kiss.
So I can update that equipment listing and
I think
Email
that
it
was
to
a
you for
good
the next
graphic
meeting.
display of where they are for future years to see what different departments overlapped or not. So you're gonna work on that then?
And the parking lot engineering for the library, that's also in process with CMA engineers. They're actually meeting on site tomorrow, and then there'll be another 20,000 phase 2 of that project, potentially raised in 2024. I'll get more details on that because I'm not very familiar with where it's at. Jen Phillips, the library trustee, has taken the reins on it since we were absent a public works director for most of this year. So I will get a status update on that as far as whether or not the 20,000 needs to be raised in 2024, if we're looking potentially another year out on that. The gym floor and wall safety upgrades, $25,000, that was not considered. That's actually something that's going to be pushed forward for consideration for 2024.
So wait a minute. I'm a little slow. Can we back up to the parking lot?
Yes.
So the warrant article passed for that,
It did.
and it hasn't been spent.
It has not. They just started working, and CMA engineers just started working on it late this fall. So they're doing a on-site meeting tomorrow. So we will probably have an invoice before the end of this year for a portion of that. I think this is phase 1 of their project. I think they have to do surveying and.
Yep.
Yeah, I think it was at 10 and 10, wasn't there two? Or was it just 20 and 20? I felt like there was a surveying and another part, maybe not.
So my point is, voters approved it for last year.
Correct.
Yep.
So it was one warrant article for 90,000, so it was the 2 culvert replacements for 70,000 plus the library parking lot improvements for
All in
20.
one warrant
that's
article.
Oh, that was the,
That's what I
yes, that
remember.
was
That
the
was- I
90.
feel like there were
You're right,
parts,
because I went.
and that's what it
Yeah,
was,
there
but
were
the-
2, you're right, yeah.
Backwards,
Yep.
sorry.
So how do you account for that then? Since they blended 2 into the one warrant article?
We can account for it in the invoicing. They split it out
Okay.
by project. So as I was saying, the gym floor and wall safety upgrades, that $25,000 that was earmarked for this year, I'm not sure why that didn't make its way onto the warrant, but
Well, it didn't, what paid for the gym floor this spring in the wall upgrade? Didn't they work on that? I know there's a lot of volunteer time put into it.
I don't know, was it on there as a warrant article? I don't remember.
No,
seeing
that
it.
wasn't a warrant article, I don't, oh, no, actually, yeah.
That's what I'm just looking
I don't
for.
remember that being a warrant
Either-
article.
I don't either.
I don't remember that at all, being a warrant article.
Pulling up the town report right now.
I was just gonna say, I remember a discussion, but I was on CIP, so I don't know if it was discussed only here and didn't get to warrant, but we finished this pretty late, so I can't imagine it would not have gone if it says it on here, but.
I mean, we did the under drain repair and we had to cut into the gym floor and we opted to not, just to patch that small section. It was gonna be in the neighborhood of $4,000. And I just had them throw an estimate at it, and they're like, well, if you're gonna replace the entire gym floor, you're probably looking at 25,000. So it didn't make sense where the rest of the floor is in such disrepair. A lot of the tiles are cracked and everything. We just said, you know, we'll leave it at concrete right now. And,
So where does this 25 stand then?
I think the 25,000 will probably be shifted into the 2024 for consideration. The board hopefully will discuss what warrant articles they're looking to put forward, or at least start the discussion tonight.
I see.
Yeah, the warrant article for the culverts in the library, it didn't actually break out the amount. It just said $90,000 to be used on that.
Okay.
Oh,
It's interesting.
that is interesting.
Okay. And now what about the rest of it? The invasive species and whatever the next one is?
The audio video meeting room update, that did not get its way onto
We
this year's
decided
warrant.
to not do that because there was talk about potentially moving the rec department, doing the larger, and then obviously with the facilities report, there's a whole lot more that needs to be done in this building. So rather than spending $50,000 to upgrade equipment in here that.
And then have to
that
potentially move
yeah.
it.
Yeah,
just doesn't make sense.
good. Did the 10,000 for the invasive species get used? No, that didn't get used either?
I think it's
It's just a reserve
in
fund.
the reserve fund.
So the source of that is
Taxation,
Warrant.
a warrant or budget,
warrant.
Warrant.
invasive species? And it was not spent?
No, this year they got that large grant from the state.
Well, the state went in there and did a whole bunch of,
They did a lot of work.
DES in your initial year, they have an invasive species control fund. It's a grant, and the first year they do 100%, and then in subsequent years, it's anywhere from, they'll do a matching contribution, it's anywhere from 25 to 50%, depending on how many other towns are applying and what they have available for state funding.
I didn't realize it was so
well,
much.
it's about time the state
Yeah, you're not
coughed
kidding.
up this money for that park,
$54,000.
for that lake.
I didn't
Yeah, it was
realize that. That's
significant
great.
for the,
Well, it's about
between
time.
the herbicide
Yeah,
treatment and the
seriously, yeah.
diver assisted
They've kind
section
of come to their
harvesting.
senses over here, I guess. That's great. Wonderful.
So there is no warrant for the gym floor.
Okay.
Yeah.
So maybe that was fund balance. It says warrant, fund balance.
There was no warrant.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying.
So
So
the-
maybe,
So that must have just been a
This is
fund balance.
mislabeled here then? It says warrant and fund
That way, yeah.
balance.
I think that was where it was intended to come from. But then it just didn't make its way onto the warrant at all. They must have decided against it.
Is this this is the final draft from last year?
This was the final draft at the end of 2022. I couldn't find anything from 2023.
I'm just wondering, because we also,
And it very well could be in John's files because I know he was heading the committee.
yeah, I'm just wondering, because also looking across in the rec, like the beach gate, we voted last year to up it to 10,000, so that wouldn't have made it on the CIP as well. 'Cause we had voted as the committee to increase the, I'm just wondering if this was the final. I don't know. Can't find it. Okay. All right. So the audio video, the AV meeting room, is there a sense that that would be put, like, just leave the CIP?
Well, I think there was a lot of discussion. We got some preliminary estimates on how much it would cost to renovate this room and the community room out back to do the exchange and make that the meeting space out there, convert this to rec space. And even though the rec department felt that they could support a lot of the costs with rec revolving, I believe, we knew that we wouldn't be able to make it happen in the operating budget. So that is potentially
Out there?
up for discussion for warrant article this year. But again,
Yeah.
it's still preliminary. They haven't even had their discussion on warrant articles. Okay. So.
and I think one of the challenges is that the back of the, we talked about the back of the building and everything else, and then the food pantry and stuff. It's just, if we're going to
Everything's
do
in
it.
flux, yeah.
Right.
Well, we just want to do it right.
Yeah.
Is why renovate this space and then find out, oh, that's not big enough, or we can't do that over here. So I think that's where, we're talking about bringing somebody on to help us prioritize some of that stuff, and hopefully he or she can.
And stop the patchwork
Yes.
stuff, which is costing us a fortune, actually, yeah.
Quilt work.
Yeah, thank you, thank you.
Patchwork sounds a little.
I'm sorry, I'm so old, Tim.
I'm patchwork. I'm with you. For me, it's
We're so
patchwork
old.
too. We're old, so, yeah.
Yeah.
But I know the cable franchise fees were, discussed to be used for that. and-
Right.
There is plenty in that fund
Fund, yeah.
to be able to make it happen, but it just doesn't make sense to make the purchase until we know what canvas we're working with.
Yeah, good.
Okay.
So that fund accumulates if you don't use it?
It does, so we get an annual allocation each year depending on subscribers and,
So that money is not gonna go away
no,
on something else, it's there.
it can only be used for that purpose. That was how it was earmarked.
So this could be pushed 2 or 3 years out and just maintain the line in the CIP, if it's still a sense that those funds would be used for that purpose once the space has been kind of determined.
Can we get
I like that.
a total of what's in that fund?
Sure.
And I did find, just so, what we were talking about before, we saw this previously, it's the vehicle
Yes.
fleet. So it shows all the vehicles that they have that would be aging out and when they would need to buy new
Yeah.
ones.
And I think that's a tab to where I printed
Okay,
this.
so,
I'll just update it with the new equipment that we
Okay.
received. Oh, well, first I want to make sure that I have the most updated.
and then this
Final
was
draft.
the highway. Had some different ones as well. This was the highway department's.
Okay.
So there were a couple. This is police, rec, and fire on this one, so. Just looking ahead, because I know that they, as you look across the budgets, certain things like the cruiser, they put a percent in as it's gonna go up in cost. I just wasn't sure if that has to be adjusted at all
Yeah.
as well
Question.
for vehicle costs.
Do you know how many years she's been doing this, trading out one car for another? I mean, are we at the point where they're in fairly good shape and we're getting a good trade-in for?
Well,
We're not.
Not,
They
So-
have like 125,000 miles on them.
Right.
Yeah.
I think the one that's subject to be retired this year is a 2020 model year, and I believe it has about 87,000 miles, which seems extremely low,
Hard
but
miles.
it's the amount of
Oh,
usage.
it's hard on an
So,
engine, yeah.
I don't think there was much trade value. I don't
Wishful
want to quote an
Yeah.
incorrect figure, but I know she has given us, and it was extremely low, so.
You
There's,
you trade it instead of bidding it off,
no, we're not trading it in.
or you gonna keep it?
Yeah, so the question is whether or not the selectmen choose to dispose of it through a sealed bid process, or if we actually bring it into service for another department.
Yeah, that's been done before. Can we go down the 24 list now that we've done the historical?
Sure. So the cruiser, I mean, this is all based on estimated inflation, I would say. So the plan is to.
What are we looking at right now?
the next
2024, this-
over.
Next
Oh,
column.
Sorry.
back to this?
Not row.
Yeah, so we
We're
went
looking
through, what we actually accomplished in
Yeah, okay. I
2023.
couldn't hear what he was, I couldn't hear what he said, so I wasn't sure where we were. Thank you.
So that's,
So the cruiser is it's in the proposed operating budget right now for 46,350.
you're gonna keep that practice,
Yes,
so that'd be in the budget. Good.
Good, yeah.
potentially.
Potentially.
Yeah.
The Tech Capital Reserve Fund.
But wait a
that-
minute, when you say that, why would you pull it out of the operating budget?
We're hoping not to, but there was
I know,
discussion.
That's a bad idea,
Yeah.
to do that, to
We've
put
got,
it in a
we've got
warrant
to cut
article.
$300,000 in the budget. We've got a meeting at
Yeah,
6:30.
I get that.
So it's just, I mean,
The other source of funding could be a warrant article.
Right.
that's what.
Right.
That's the decisions that
So I'm
they're
not sure,
gonna,
I'm just saying.
So what if it
everything's
gets
up-
voted down?
everything's
It would be
up.
nice to put in the operating budget,
That's
but
You
the,
run the risk
That's
of,
the
of the community
difficulty.
voting that
Right.
down.
well, that's that's the same with the road, how they had to, increase
Yeah, I
what
get
went.
that.
So
I understand that. I'm not,
so all of those things are,
I'm just bringing it up, why you would do that and take it out of the police
It's
budget.
definitely not a preferred.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't think
this
so.
might be a absolute necessity, but that would be too bad.
the
The
tech
other
cap,
option is that a deliberative, somebody requests to put it back into the budget.
The Tech Capital Reserve Fund, Fawn has that earmarked to continue to add into that fund. She received a grant for the body worn cameras that they've just purchased, but it is a lease purchase, so obviously we have to be able to pay our end of that lease agreement. So a portion of that will be coming out of here, and then obviously as technology needs come up for the police department, whether they have to replace tasers or anything else, that's what that is to be used for.
so that passed last year,
It did.
so what's the fund balance?
brand new.
It was brand new for 10,000.
Okay, so the balance is 10.
Yes, I don't know.
Because
I
she didn't spend anything on last year?
No, because she got the grant to pay for,
All the body cameras.
Right.
So that'll remain in that reserve fund.
I believe there was discussion about increasing that for 2024, but I have to refer to notes and follow up with her on that. So for the fire and rescue department, there was a plan for flooring replacement, miscellaneous repairs for 12,000. And base radio replacement for 15,000.
The fund source isn't filled in on those, what do you think?
it's gonna have to be warrant.
Warrant.
And that, just for clarification, that reserve fund is for vehicles only?
The 100,000?
No,
Yeah.
No, it's for equipment and breathing apparatus, I believe.
okay, oh, yeah.
Would that include vehicles, or is it limited to equipment?
I think it's,
I don't know.
that's what, it may be helpful to put a little bit more than just this capital reserve fund, just to be clear of what it's.
Well, it has ambulance above it, it says capital reserve, so it must be for vehicles too.
So that's the ambulance replacement has its own line in
Own line.
2028. That's not the same
It's
line.
the fire vehicle.
Fire vehicle
SCBA,
SCBA capital reserve.
Fire vehicle,
Both.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
but that wouldn't cover the ambulance, right? It's fire vehicle and.
Well, that
breathing
stands
apparatus.
alone, remember, that's kind of
Yes, has its own,
self-funding.
right. It's a different reserve for that ambulance, because that is listed above it. Okay.
Do we have a balance on that capital reserve?
I don't have any of the capital reserve balances. I can get them to you.
Yeah, get them to everybody. And what's the source of that? Is it a warrant article or budget?
The warrant.
Warrant articles.
Yeah.
Oops, there we go.
Moving on to the Public Works Department, I do not believe we will be moving forward with a pickup truck for 83,000.
No, it's,
We have the utility truck.
yeah.
So is there a need at all to push it out, or just to cross it off the list?
Good question.
Probably crossed it off for now. I mean, I think once our new public works director is sort of, he's only been in for what, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, so once he's been in for a little while, we can develop those.
Going forward, yeah.
A new baler at the recycling center. We've had a lot of discussion about that. And I think discussion will continue. I guess we'll have to update this after tonight's meeting, or if we get that far. But that would be a warrant article. And I think even preliminary cost estimates that we got was in the neighborhood of 16,000 for the baler, so it might not even be enough
Wow.
at 12.
Is that gonna be an additional one, or is it replacing one?
It would be an
that's-
additional one.
Oh, okay.
Well, replacing, no, it's gonna be replacing the aluminum can crusher, essentially. because that
Which we don't
died.
have anymore.
We don't
That
have
That's
died.
gone, right?
They disassembled that. So right now, we're hauling the cans without crushing them. We're hauling them weekly over to Harding's.
Well, that was disposed of then, the can crusher?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like-
it was 40
it was
years old,
It
and
was older
they,
than the building, I believe.
and they couldn't get
The
parts
building
for
was
it.
built around it.
Like a monument.
So what we're trying to figure out, Gene, is what makes sense for the recycling center moving forward as far as what what needs to be baled, what's the cost to the town to bale mixed plastics and stuff. So do we need to expend that money to build to have a new baler if we don't really need to have 3 balers? Cardboard, plastic, or 2-foot plastic.
Got 2 now,
Yep. But one's for cardboard, so there's only 1 for plastic right now.
yes. And they're hauling the cans uncrushed over to
Harding's once a week.
Harding.
I don't think there's any other discussion on the road maintenance reconstruction or the highway equipment capital reserve fund. Those are just carried forward and
So that will appear in the March, as a warrant article, continuing with how it's been done in the past. Question?
question. And then
Because
it's,
keep in mind, that's higher than it was in years past, the $600,000 warrant article, because we had moved money from the operating budget into
well,
that.
it is split up between warrant article and operating budget as the
Oh,
funding
yeah.
source.
There's 200
Specify.
from the
Can-
operating, right?
Can I ask a question? I know we were going down 24, but the culverts, so it looks like in 2026 that there's a significant increase in culvert
So
repair?
we are in the design phase right now, and then we have to do the wetlands permitting, and then that is potentially what they're looking at to do the actual replacement. And I think that that's even low. When, before Sean had left his role as the Public Works Director, I believe he said that initial estimates were about 750,000 per culvert.
Because it's twice, because it was in 26 and 28.
Right,
Good,
it's $1 million,
good observation.
5,000 in each, yeah.
$2 million for
$2 million
culverts.
to replace
So
4
once we get
culverts.
into the DES permitting side of it, we have 5 years. And then you can do 1 extension.
So there'd be nothing happening on it next year?
Unless we choose to do a bond or some other creative way to,
So
Fund that, 'cause it's-
my question to you would be, so we had that whole culvert program that just went through, but that, they didn't complete that till this year, the assessment.
correct.
So I guess I'm just wondering if these numbers might not even be accurate because they were developed last year.
Yeah, I bet you're right.
So I think having our new Department of Works Director kind of review that plan and coming up with a more accurate,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Fortunately, it's a few years out.
Couple.
But they inspected
But it's a
every
big
culvert
number.
and mapped them all out.
Map.
Right, oh, right, right, right.
Plan.
It's on
They have a-
iPads and stuff, so it's really cool.
It's good.
If you're into culverts.
So exciting, huh?
I am.
Okay, I'm sorry to rail. Okay.
That was a good question.
So the 20,000, again, I think that's the second phase of the parking lot at the library.
Is that overdoing the existing parking lot or that area that's gravel next door right now?
I think both,
It's incorporating both.
and making
Possibly
a
moving the entrance
different
a little,
entrance, right?
where-
The water basically comes down, rushing down from the old fire department, the SAU building right into the
Yep.
parking lot.
And they were thinking about making it almost like a semicircular type of entrance and exit, right?
So you don't pull out right at the
Right at that
turn
corner,
on
right, that's so dangerous, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's what the engineer with the
think that was the
water
thought, yeah.
and so between the, for the, the runoff water and then also.
And then at some point, we have to get involved with the state with that too, right?
Okay. So the gym floor will be probably put in 24,
Potentially.
and then basketball, pickleball, court paving.
And that's this old paved section out here.
Okay.
Is that, once again, there's no indication of where that money's coming from?
Because we haven't had that discussion yet.
Okay, so this is, okay, understood.
And this, I do believe last year's did go forward with a lot of unknown funding sources, but I think the committee had asked that those be filled in as much as possible.
Okay.
Just to have it consistently say what the plan is, even if that's not what you actually do that year, that there's a plan for the funding source for every item.
And
I
hopefully,
think you could probably say warrant article for
yeah,
everything.
I
was
think
gonna say,
so
if
as
it's
well.
mostly
Not coming
warrant-
from the operating
Right,
budget.
That's for
unless
sure.
it's good to know if some are from reserve funds, because it makes it clearer
that's
when
true.
you're
Yep.
funding a reserve fund and what it's going to pay for, is a little easier to track.
Goes reach out to the National
And when
Pickleball
the
Association
requests
for-
come in from the department heads, there is a section where they fill in on their submission form where they can put in where the source of funding is to come from. Obviously, that's subject to change, so.
Okay. So just going down
So the van replacement.
is. looking
That's
for
25, isn't it?
25, yeah. Hopping.
Invasive species, that's a project that continue to add into the capital reserve fund, because even though they were able to get significant treatment, it's an ongoing, as, you know, new spots, and
And they already found new blooms after, like this fall.
they did right around the town beach area, so, we can do our best to be proactive. And then the community center back building, $100,000.
To do what?
Is it just to
Renovate.
to renovate?
Well,
$100,000 to renovate? You think that's all it's gonna take?
Well, I mean, the crew that kind of came through, did the whole facilities assessment, they've got experience with construction, engineering, design, and all that, and there were a few of them that had that experience that said, the structure is good, it's getting it cleaned out and getting it sealed up, and then you're basically gonna have a skeleton, right? That's to,
Yeah, it won't
just to get it to
actually
the
be
point where
renovated.
then we can figure out what we wanna do with it, it'll just be a big open space.
It's just sort
So
of
that's
fixing it.
basically just closing up and cleaning it out. That's what the 100 grand is gonna be.
I mean, I wasn't here last year when this was done, but in knowing what we've learned,
This is a result of the facilities inspection report.
no.
Oh, no.
No, this is from.
It's been an ongoing
This was
discussion.
on last year, and I believe that there was talk of demolition.
There has,
That was I believe the dollar amount thrown out last year was to tear it down.
to just tear it down.
Just
And,
change
and I
that.
have to say
Which is,
that
yeah, that is, so I believe that dollar amount was put in there as a demolition of the back
the
space.
structure is only good according to an 11-year-old engineering report. Now, I think it is, and the guys on the facilities committee do have experience, but it wouldn't meet today's snow loads, so it would need some figuring, but at least it would keep it from collapsing. So, I mean, it is that to me is one of the biggest conundrums of what to do with that.
So I think, and we had talked about this last time, it's gonna be hard to put a number there if we wanna do it. If anything, we should probably move it out a year ahead, or a year back to 2025, because our goal is next year again to have a facilities person assess what we need, get costs, engineering costs, okay, maybe it has to be demolished, well, get some estimates so then we can work forward on.
Yeah, we have
more.
to have something to compare,
Right.
if it's worth it to.
Right now, that number right there is just somebody throwing a dart in the dartboard.
Yeah, I think that was just kind of like, what would it cost to just shore it up, clean it out, and make it secure from vandalism or, more damage? Okay.
So possibly move to 25, you think, maybe?
Yeah.
Say,
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think we have enough solid evidence or a plan at this point to move it forward for a warrant article. I think it's preliminary.
Yeah, we have no estimates, and as I say, that engineering report is 11 years old, so. Who knows?
All right, and then $40,000 for an accounting software replacement. We're currently using BMSI. We're doing our payroll through ADP. It is easily gonna take $40,000 to roll out to a new system. I don't know that 2024 is the year to do so. Obviously, both softwares have their quirks. We are managing, so I think that personally, I think that this could be pushed out to 2025 at a minimum.
And the BMSI is still supported, because you have the non-cloud-based version, right?
It is at this time. They were just bought out this year, so I'll double check.
I know when the school was looking for ours, we looked at the
cloud-based.
MSI, but it's only cloud-based. They don't offer the older version anymore. And then Infinite Visions, which was what we went with, but,
So the decision on that hasn't been made, is that correct?
so that would be moved as well. And then the cloud-based and things like that do come with an annual
Fee?
cost too. So it's not just the
Yeah.
changeover, then
Oh.
it's the additional budget hit.
Subscription.
It's the support.
Subscription, right.
Support.
Yeah. I mean, we are still paying an annual support now,
Yeah,
but it's based off of the desktop version.
Yeah.
So that's the information that I have to get as to whether or not it's going to remain supported.
okay, yeah,
for as
that's a
long
big,
as we've
The
got
support
it.
comes out of the operating budget.
Correct.
yeah. It's just if they no longer support your accounting software, you just don't want to be in trouble, to be in Excel spreadsheets and,
Especially as friendly as it is.
yeah. Okay.
Do you want to move on to the school?
Is there anything else going out that's a big thing?
Well, just looking, I guess I wasn't here last year again, but the police department, new police station for $40,000 in 2025.
Oh,
Yeah, I know.
that, I
I
think
saw
that
that.
was,
The
that was kind of put on there last year, as a, placeholder for 2025 to start exploring. I believe the 40,000 was more of a
Yep.
Placeholder.
exploratory, what would it look like to expand, to, build? It was also discussed if there would be a new facility, you know, what, so I believe that's what the 40,000 came from. I'm not really sure what the 250,000 would pay for either, but,
Buying and stealing.
I can't recall that, but I do remember the discussion in 2025 of, you know, it does seem like the space is not ideal for the police department, and looking at, you know, you do need to spend a little money to look at surveying to, you know, figure out what your options are.
And so again, that comes back to thinking about what we're doing with this space, because then if you end up with empty space, it's
Exactly.
like, so we need to kind of come up with a longer term.
It's like a
plan
little
about-
Jenga
Yeah,
puzzle
with the whole
here,
main
yeah.
center.
Okay.
All right, on to the school.
So the schools is updated, so, we looked last time at 2023's and what was completed, so this is, moving forward 24 and out. So the only thing we have next year, on the CIP is the roof air handlers over the gym and caf. We're not sure if that is still the current price. We asked for more updated information because the request from that is from a few years ago. So we do feel like we did have to spend a lot for some systems repairs last year. And so the one large system thing that is still remaining is those air handlers. And so
Just the actual units.
the units that are on the roof of over the gym and
So
cafeteria.
this isn't replacement, this is repair.
No, it's replacement. Replacement of 2 units.
Gee,
That's what we
Those, yeah.
said. So we wanted clarification on that. If it was at that dollar amount, the school board did say we would look to see if there was fund balance. Because we do feel like it's something that needs to be done sooner. We've had an increase in repairs on some of those, and so once you really start paying out a lot for
when that
repairs.
gym one starts up, it feels like the whole building's gonna fall down.
So when we've, you know, hopefully you're gonna see some efficiencies with our boiler and things like that, so we may see some energy savings in some of those other areas, so we're hopeful that that can be funded, but as we move forward, we may have to look. We do not have a lot in our building capital reserve fund, because it was not funded fully from last year's fund balance. We did not have enough to fund the warrants, so it was partially funded. So that's the only thing in 2024. And then, as you can see, oops, there's a misspelling. It's supposed to say
yeah,
additional. I forgot a couple letters. Additional building space, And we just put a $2.5 million number in there. We had a RFI, so just kind of informational for a prefab type modular building for the back space. So, the facilities committee is still in the process of looking through those RFIs, and will be bringing more information to us. Those go by square footage, so there's a possibility to bring the price down if we do 3 classrooms instead of 4, and some logistical things like that, but that would obviously be bond.
So 2 years ago, we could have had a new addition for 5.2, and now we're looking at 4 trailers for $2.5 million.
So not trailers, so these are, yes, but these are not a modular, they're just built off-site and brought to, but,
Beautiful.
For prefab.
it's a prefab, but it's a large amount of the money is the excavation, even just to put a slab there. Costs a lot of money, so, so that is what, is being discussed now, but, hopefully the facilities committee will be moving forward, with that, but we do know that's the price of something like that.
Going back to the roof air handlers, so you're gonna have to come forward with a warrant article or cover it in the budget?
Well, so we said with 87,000, that, so fund balance would be, for us, we would be looking at probably this year's unexpended fund balance if there's anything left. But if that is the price, if the price is going to be a lot more, then it would probably go to warrant, because I'm not sure. Don't quote me on, but I believe our end of year fund balance last year was $88,000 from our operating budget, and so that's what went into our building capital reserve fund. But we removed 140 to do the roof, so that fund is not
But then you got more of the adequacy back.
into this year's budget.
Right.
Correct. So that's where we are tracking now, and hopefully with our current BA, a little bit more aware of our up-to-date financial situation to see what we're tracking for fund balance.
Of course, your fiscal year ends in,
Because our fiscal year ends in June,
June,
so we'd be
yeah.
looking at, knowing even with everything encumbered, what we expect to pay, what we'd have for fund balance. So something like this would probably be done in the summer. It requires a crane, and they put things up, so we like to do those projects in the summertime if possible. But again, we asked for more firm numbers, because it could be, that's what one costs, and they were, so, and then that would be a different scenario. So in 2026, the paving the road around the school, as well as wheelchair, it says wheelchair ramps, but it would be bringing most of the pavement that's around kind of the cafeteria and gym on the sides is not really ADA accessible. So we have a few entrances that are, but some of the paving is not. So we discussed that, we were told we can't just pave those little ramps because it'll leave big bumps in the rest of the pavement, and it really needs to be done at the same
whole thing?
time.
Oh.
And if we're putting any sort of building in the back where they're excavating, we're not going to pave until that happens. So the paving would happen in 26. And then the other big improvement item is the reshingling the pitched roof at its original to the building. So it is getting to life for those shingles. And then along with that would be the solar panels. We would be discussing if that's something we would want to put on that roof once it's reshingled. But that is a TBD cost, and that should have said TBD. And then the kiln, our art department, where they fire the clay. We were surprised to find out that it would be $47,000 to replace that. Wow. It's also, I believe, original to the building, and it's getting hard to find parts to repair it. So it's at a point now
It
where,
breaks down quite often.
and if it can't be fixed, it would just be sitting there, because the new codes would require actually enlarging the space that houses it right now.
It's propane fired?
No. How was it? That's a good question. I've never powered it. I just have seen the room, and it's in quite a small space, and they said with new codes, it would have to be
Yeah,
away
I
from the
bet.
wall, and so it would require some reconfiguring and then the purchase. So that was, the estimate was 47,000. We would love to have it sooner, but felt like, you know, that our students would make do if they couldn't do clay. And then repaving the main parking lot, that's something we do every so many years, so that's why.
That seems low to me, too.
It does, yeah.
That seems
We
like
ask
not
these
realistic.
questions, and they say the paving that we can get, sometimes if we do a group, if we can go in when the town is doing some paving of the streets, that we kind of can join in with some of that.
Save some money
So
that way,
That's
yeah.
been told to us, I'm not sure.
I want to believe that.
And then the emergency generator lingers on the CIP always, and typically has stayed far out because it has not been a priority for the school to have an emergency
Do you
generator.
have a generator?
We do not have a full emergency generator. We have some backup generators, but no.
Because if you had a full, the school could run without power, correct?
Correct.
So you wouldn't have to have a snow day if we lost just enough power.
Or the other reason is for it to be a space for the town to use for an emergency.
Well, I was going to say, do we have an emergency management plan?
This building
This
runs,
building
this
is-
building.
Oh, this has a generator, okay.
This
I just
building
wanna
will
know
be,
where to go.
So, and it was discussed last year, brought up by John, that some towns come into agreements with other towns that do have a large facility. So if, say, Deerfield or Raymond or some other town had a large facility that had a generator, that we could have some sort of kind of intertown agreement that that would be an emergency space. Obviously, we're a large town, so what's
Right.
close to you might not be close to me, but that is something that if the town does not want to take on the full cost of an emergency generator for the school. Because typically sometimes it's power outages, but oftentimes it's along with storms, and so
You couldn't
if
get
it's a
there
snow
anyway.
outage, it wouldn't matter to have the school
Right.
running anyway.
For the past 2 years,
We've had
we've
power
had for 2 to 3
outages
years just for wind.
That's true.
before the winter,
Right.
unfortunately.
Let's see how that
So,
trends.
all right, does anyone have any questions on those?
Straightforward.
And then we don't have anything for 2029. So I know sometimes we line these up and generally see, it does look like those large figures for the town for the culverts would be 26 and 28, and the school is proposing the building in 25. But those are some large
And the roof.
ticket items.
26, yeah.
Should this be page 2 of this and run these totals? Is that what you're suggesting?
Sometimes I think we see them, I'm trying to look back at some of our, I don't know if we ever see them totally, but it is nice to, again, when you're looking at the CIP, so you're, managing
Get the grand
expenses.
total.
It's the same pocketbook across.
Yeah, really.
So,
Unfortunately, the school doesn't have too many line items, so I think we could probably combine them.
so
into-
this is what we had, I don't know what year this was. And so it kind of looked at the spending, if you purchase, everything on the CIP and the total, cost. This was, in 2022, it was the building, so, which did not pass for the school, but that's why that one was so high. But then you can kind of see how they're funded and, how they look.
Did Chris do
each
that?
other.
Chris did that,
I think
didn't he?
this was Chris, I think this was, this is my notes from December 2021.
Yeah.
So, but that might be something of somewhere. It was basically just totals from town school and then,
Okay. I'll see if I can dust it off and update them.
yeah.
Any other discussion?
So just basically a lot of cleanup for our next
A lot of
meeting.
cleanup. Next meeting.
You said tonight you'd probably be cleaning up a lot of these. Is that what
Yes.
you just said?
For the budget.
Yeah, I heard that several times.
Yes.
So that decision will be warrant or budget,
Correct.
and you've got
Yeah,
to trim
they're-
the budget, so it's unlikely that they'll go to budget.
Correct.
Did you
And so we got these to sorry, go ahead. We got these to review.
Those are ones that have been submitted in the past. You've probably already seen them. There's nothing new. It was just, in case you needed a refresher, those were the requests that were originally put in, so.
So these aren't,
Those are just for recreation, and those are already figured into this worksheet.
Because they had nothing new to add.
so all the departments have been queried in this.
Correct.
And so, again, just the, so I think that the discussion about the beach gate is that it does not meet the minimum requirements for $10,000.
Right.
Maybe it would in a couple years, but. with the
I'll
past
see if I can find
Yeah.
it more updated. So the one that I did distribute was the final as of 2022, so if there were changes
Yeah.
I think
needed.
it ended up being much higher than that, which
Oh,
is,
did it?
I'm pretty sure, from what I've heard,
That's why.
it was very costly.
Mm-hmm.
Which is why they didn't.
Good catch.
Yeah. So if, if that does, meet the.
I can ask
minimum,
tonight,
just to
though.
put- Because I know it was, I remember it being discussed that it was larger than that they could necessarily support in their budget.
Yeah,
But.
not large enough to be a CIP item.
Right, which used to be 5,000, and we
I
voted
think it was
last year
amended
up
to
at
10,000.
10,000.
Did you establish future meeting dates?
No.
Or are we setting them by meeting?
I don't think setting them by meeting,
Okay.
just because we keep adding meetings.
So thoughts for next meeting? I believe the plan is to try to get the board recommended budget to the budget committee for their next meeting on the 14th, which is Thursday. So we will be busy tonight. And we're also going to start the discussion on the warrant articles, so what are you thinking for next meeting date? Any suggestions?
It's gonna have to be January,
Mm-hmm.
obviously, January 2nd, but that's probably rough for people to come back from the holidays to this.
Well, whatever budget, we have a couple. Hold on, let me pull my budget committee. I don't know if I have all the possible dates in. Do you have, Charlotte, do you have the budget committee full list in your calendar?
I believe, yeah, so the 21st of December, 28th of December, 4th of January.
Okay.
So budget committee is
Thursdays.
Thursdays
Thursdays.
only? Okay,
Every Thursday is the 11th.
okay. I was just making sure there was, I know that the
18th.
hearings are, I feel like the same week, maybe the 9th and the 11th of January, we have the hearings, town hearings on the 9th,
Oh, yeah.
and I think school's on. There was one week that had a Tuesday,
Right.
Thursday, that's why I was just making sure.
That's right, the
Okay.
town is Tuesday, January 9th, and the school is Thursday, the
So it probably
11th.
makes the most sense to try to meet on the 2nd.
Tuesday
Yeah.
the 2nd.
Yeah.
And then,
And if we have all this information to us prior, it shouldn't be too long of a
should be
meeting.
pretty
so.
quick. And then there, who typically wrote the narrative? Didn't?
I think John Scruton wrote that.
John wrote it, and I believe Chris wrote it in the past, and we just,
For the,
I can help you.
the narrative, like the little write-up about what the CIP is, and that's in the town report.
Okay.
Yep.
There's a little narrative, I think he wrote that.
who, John or Chris?
Well, both of them, but yeah, John last
So they
year.
would write it for that meeting or after that meeting and then give it to the board?
It's pretty boilerplate.
Yeah, it's pretty boilerplate, it just, kind of talks about what the CIP is and what it,
Okay.
intentions.
Copy and paste.
Yeah, pretty much. And it could be, I think John changed it a little bit, so it could be looked at years past.
Yeah, we can probably draft something up and just,
Because I think we did we approve that in our town meeting, or is that
It didn't get
something-
approved last year.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking if we want to have it for that meeting.
Right, that's what I was
Yeah.
bringing it up
Narrative
for, too,
didn't
the
get
narrative
approved.
section. Yeah, I don't remember,
The only thing I saw was the draft, but it must have gotten approved because it made it to
well,
the meetings for the minutes for that last meeting were never.
Assume.
somebody made an executive decision.
Yeah, that's
so,
probably.
but I feel like we've looked at it in the past.
Okay.
All right, so next meeting, Tuesday, January 2nd at 5:30. We will work on the narrative for the town report to have available for that meeting, as well as all the other open items we discussed tonight. Any
we're
other
doing it-
business?
we
Any
are doing it
other
on the 2nd?
comments?
Yeah, 5:30 on the 2nd.
1, 2,
5:30.
6:30.
Whatever fun you have planned.
I didn't have any
I think
fun
timing is
planned.
perfect because the budget workshop starts at 6:30, so we've got about a minute.
5:30?
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Motion by Tim DeBrio, seconded by Maureen Campiola. All in favor?
Aye.
Hi, yes, we need to.
Thank you.
Thank you.